Hi there, I'm Phoebe Richards. I'm one of the advisors at the Career Center. And for Junior Jumpstart, I'm here to talk with you all about gap years. And so we'll talk about what is a gap year, why you might want to take a gap year, and we'll also think a little bit about how to get started searching for those opportunities. And so, just to start at the very beginning with the question, what is a gap year? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's that time off in between undergrad and graduate school. And so you might take that time for 1 year, one gap year off in between. Gap year could also be multiple years. You might take multiple gap years, whether that's two or more, depending on what's right for you. And so that's what we'll talk about a little bit next too, is how to determine and discern whether to take that time in between or not. And there are a lot of reasons that folks decide to take time off in between undergrad and graduate school. It could be anything from being burnt out from undergrad and wanting to have a break from school before going on to another academic endeavor. It could be wanting to take that time to build up some savings, or it could be wanting to take that time to explore your field to confirm if grad school in this area is really what you want to do, or to test out something completely different. And no matter what the reason is that you might choose to take a gap year, all those reasons are valid, are great reasons to take that time off. What's important is just really doing that assessment to think through what's the best choice for me? What's going to be the best choice for me in terms of my path, and making the most out of these next couple of years after graduating from undergrad and out of my grad school experience ultimately. And so if you're still in that process of discerning whether or not you want to take some time off before grad school, then we'll talk a little bit about how you can gather a little bit more information, how you can do a little bit more assessing on what might be the right path for you. And I have three main tips around that. The first one is talking to professors in your field or other mentors in your area. This is a great way to get a sense for what might be common in your field or common for folks applying to the kind of graduate programs that you're going to be applying to. So by having that conversation with those professors, you'll get a sense for, do most applicants take time before going to grad school to work in the field? Or do they go straight from undergrad? And you'll also get a sense of, do applicants work directly in the field for those gap years? Do they work kind of all over the place before going to grad school in this area? And so by having conversations with people who are, really involved in the field currently, you'll be able to get that background knowledge and context for making that decision for yourself. Of course, just because something is common doesn't mean it has to be your path. But you want to gather that information and have that information for yourself to inform the decision that you make, even if it's not the direction that you end up going. So those conversations with those mentors, those professors can be very valuable. The second thing that I would recommend doing is taking some time to reflect on, just for you, if there's anything that you want to build up or strengthen in terms of skill sets or knowledge sets before going to grad school. If you've been looking into graduate programs, you're probably getting a sense of what you'll be learning, what you'll be doing, the kinds of things you'll be thinking about, talking about, practicing. And so knowing for yourself, oh, I'd really like to be stronger in this area before I go to grad school. Or I really would like to take the time to learn more about something in particular before going into that academic environment. That might be a reason to take a gap year. And of course, there are times when we're going into a field that has some really specific prerequisites for it, and you may need to take some additional coursework during a gap year or two before applying to that program. But I'm also just thinking about for you personally. There might be times when you want to have taken an additional course or two so that you have that background knowledge, or you want to get some experience working in a certain field or working in a certain community, working with a certain skill set, to be able to take that with you into your graduate program. And so thinking about that as well, are there strengths I want to build on? Are there areas of growth that I want to take the time for before going to grad school? Can be helpful in that assessment of, is this the right choice for me? And then thirdly, and this one's a bit of a catch-all, but what else might you want out of the next 1 or 2 years after graduating from undergrad? And that could be anything. It could be that you want to be living in a certain city because you know that's where your support system and community is going to be for a couple of years. It could be that you have always wanted to live abroad, and so looking for an opportunity to work abroad, maybe teach English abroad as an opportunity to get that experience before going off down this path that grad school will take you on. Could be a reason to take some time off in between. There are a lot of different reasons that you might say, yeah, let me just put it off for a little bit. Let me take a break from school for a little while. And so really taking the time to ask yourself that question and to think really broadly about your holistic life, not just your 9-to-5 day job that you will do or your grad school plan particularly, but in general, what do you want your life to look like over the next couple of years, and what are some of the pieces you might want to be able to fit into it, to give yourself that space to explore and to really brainstorm ahead of making the decision about taking a gap year or not. And so, having talked to mentors, having reflected on how you want to be prepared for grad school, and reflecting on what's important to you out of the next couple of years, hopefully that'll help bring you a little bit closer to discerning if taking a gap year is the right path for you or not. But if you're having trouble processing through it, or you just want someone more to talk through it with, come visit us at the Career Center. This is part of what we're here for too, is these processing kinds of conversations of, here are my thoughts and here's where I'm struggling to make a decision. We're happy to help you think through what's the best path for you. In addition to, of course, talking to your other mentors, your friends, your family, your support system when making a decision about what you want your post-grad path to look like. And now that we've talked a little bit about the decision-making process, I did want to share a few tips around getting started in searching for those gap year opportunities. And with that, I always start with thinking about the search as a project because it's something you're going to work on over time. And thinking about it as almost like a class you're taking or a project you're doing for a class that will last a while in terms of how you want to fit it into your schedule, how you want to make time for it. Maybe you're a person who likes to block aside certain chunks of time every week to make sure that you're staying on top of your search. Maybe you're not a structured person like that and it's just adding it into your to-do list so that you can get through to it, as you go through your tasks every week. Whatever works best for you in your process, but taking that time to really think about, how am I going to fit this into my life? Because you are a busy student with coursework and academic endeavors and people you care about and time to sleep sometimes, right? All of those are so important. And so thinking about, how do I fit this into my schedule? How do I make sure that I make time for this? Can be really helpful in making this process feel manageable, and breaking it down into smaller chunks for yourself, pacing it out over time. And so when you're looking at the tactics that you're going to use during that time as you're working on your search, I think about 3 kind of broad categories of tactics that I mostly focus on. Job boards, target lists, and connecting with people. And so with job boards, you have a great resource of CareerLink, which is WashU's job board for WashU students. And what's nice about CareerLink is that often employers will post specifically with us because they're interested in WashU students. That's not true for every single position posted on CareerLink, but it's true for many of them. So that's exciting to know that some of those employers might be specifically watching for WashU student applications. And CareerLink is also going to have opportunities for gap year type things, because that's something that we know students are looking for and thinking about. So it might include some of those really traditional kinds of transitional programs, whether that's teaching fellowships, AmeriCorps opportunities, Peace Corps, teaching English abroad opportunities, things along those lines are going to be posted in CareerLink, although of course it's not ever going to be a comprehensive list of every opportunity out there. But then there will also be other kinds of post-grad job opportunities, because even though you're planning to take probably a set amount of time before applying to grad school, doesn't mean that you have to apply to an opportunity that is only meant to last a certain amount of time, like some of those traditional transitional programs. TFA is a 2-year commitment, right? And so you could do that knowing that at the end of those 2 years, you're going to grad school. Although TFA, you get a master's as you're going through the program. So maybe not my best example to have chosen, but in terms of the 2-year mark, it is a set amount of time, right? But you could also take for your gap year an opportunity that is just a traditional post-grad job that doesn't have a set end date, but they're hoping that any candidate who they hire is going to be around for at least a year or two, if not longer. And so knowing that you're not limited to those opportunities that have a time limit on them, I think is key in thinking about searching for these opportunities. So CareerLink is a great resource for you in terms of job boards. You can also ask around again to your professors in the field, mentors, folks at the Career Center who work with students in your field, peers who are interested in similar things to you, to see if there are other job boards that align with your field or maybe the part of the country that you're wanting to be in for the next year or two. For example, idealist.org is a job board for nonprofit type opportunities. And so that can be a really great resource if that's the kind of opportunity that you're looking for. Although if you're looking at St. Louis specifically for nonprofit opportunities, our nonprofits tend to post their positions with the Rome Group, which has a job board for St. Louis nonprofits. So by asking around, you can get a sense of if there are some good tips like that in terms of where you can look for opportunities. I also love building out a target list. This is a list of companies or organizations that you could see yourself working for. It could be some of those dream companies that you would love to work at. You can also get ideas by, again, asking around for advice, by looking at alumni on LinkedIn who are in your field and seeing where have they worked in the past. Did any of them take gap years before grad school, and what did they do? And you can add those organizations to your list as well to keep tabs on them, to keep an eye out for when they post positions. I make my list in a spreadsheet so that I can link the careers page of those organizations and click through really quickly whenever I'm sitting down to work on my search just to see if anything new has been posted. So that can be a great tactic as well. And then we've got connecting with people, which I've already been talking about because I keep saying, ask around, get advice. All of that is part of the connecting with people aspect of this. Reaching out to anyone and everyone to see what advice you can get, what more you can learn, what direction they might be able to point you in as you're working on your search. So of course, just talking to your mentors, talking to your peers, talking to folks at the Career Center, all of those are great tactics in getting new ideas from your search, getting new things put on your radar. And you can also think about some of those alumni that you might have looked up and seen are in your field. Maybe you want to reach out to one or two of them to see, what is it like in your grad program, to see, did you take a gap year? How did you decide? What did you choose to do? And did you think about other programs as well? What else did you look at? All of that can be great information for you as you're working on your search. Because as you hone in on what it is that you want to do, talking to folks who are in that world, in that area, is going to help you learn even more about what might be possible and how to position yourself well as you apply for those opportunities. Timeline for opportunities can all look different as well. With some of those traditional kinds of programs like Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, Venture for America, they often have fall deadlines. So if you're interested in some of those programs, keeping an eye out in the fall for those deadlines and applications is going to be a good move. For other kinds of gap year opportunities, could happen anywhere across the year. And so getting a sense for what timeline is common for the kinds of opportunities that you're looking at. So nonprofits I was talking about earlier, if you're interested in education or advocacy or certain cause kind of work, those often are hiring in the spring, not the fall, right? And so the timeline can look a little bit different depending on what kinds of opportunities you're looking at. So if that's something that you're unsure of, again, talking to folks in your field, talking to someone at the Career Center, all that can be a good way to get a sense of what your timeline might look like in terms of when you'll be seeing applications posted for the kinds of opportunities that you're interested in. All right, we've talked about what a gap year is. We've talked about discerning if a gap year is a right choice for you. We've talked about some general getting started tips for how to structure your search for a gap year opportunity. And so with all of that, I would reiterate again, don't go through this alone. You have lots of resources and people in your corner who want to help. So reach out to those professors. Come to us at the Career Center one time, multiple times, whatever you need, we're here to help. Both with those big questions of, I'm trying to decide if this is the right choice for me, as well as the really nitty-gritty in the weeds questions like, how do I put together a good cover letter for this opportunity? Or what's the timeline for the kinds of opportunities that I'm looking for? We're here to help with all of that. I'm excited for you as you go forward on this path and think about grad school and think about gap years. And again, don't hesitate to reach out however we can help, and enjoy the rest of Junior Jumpstart. Take care.